Welcome to Barbaras Bulletin, the podcast where we bring you the latest news and updates from around the world. I'm your host, Barbara, and I'm excited to share today's top stories with you. We're starting off with a big story out of Washington, D.C., where lawmakers are debating a major legislative package that could have significant implications for the country's budget and economy. The bill, which is a top priority for President Trump, aims to extend certain tax breaks while also increasing spending on border security and defense. However, not everyone is on board with the plan. Some Republicans, including members of the House Freedom Caucus, are expressing concerns about the bill's impact on the national debt. They argue that the new spending and tax cuts are front-loaded, while the measures to offset the cost are back-loaded. One of the key sticking points is the implementation of new work requirements for able-bodied participants in Medicaid. The current bill would not impose these requirements until 2029, but some lawmakers are pushing to speed up the timeline. Democratic lawmakers, on the other hand, are criticizing the bill's proposed cuts to Medicaid and food stamps, which they say would harm vulnerable populations. As Rep. Jim Clyburn of South Carolina put it, "There is nothing wrong with us bringing the government in balance, but there is a problem when that balance comes on the back of working men and women." The bill's fate is still uncertain as lawmakers continue to negotiate and try to find common ground. The House Budget Committee has approved the measure, but it still needs to pass the full House and Senate before it can become law. It's worth noting that the Nonpartisan Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget estimates that the bill could add around $3.3 trillion to the national debt over the next decade. This has raised concerns among some lawmakers and budget experts, who argue that the country needs to get its fiscal house in order. We'll be keeping a close eye on this story as it develops, and we'll bring you updates and analysis throughout the week. In the meantime, we want to hear from you. What do you think about the proposed bill? Do you support the tax cuts and increased spending, or do you have concerns about the impact on the national debt? We'll be right back with more of today's top news on Barbaras Bulletin. Welcome back to Barbaras Bulletin. I'm your host, Barbara, and we're glad you're joining us again for this segment of our show. Today we're focusing on a significant development in European politics as Poland gears up for a presidential runoff election that promises to be a nail-biter. The first round of voting has set the stage for a closely contested second round between Rafał Trzaskowski, the candidate from the ruling Civic Coalition, and Karol Nawrocki, who is backed by the Conservative Nationalist Law and Justice Party. According to the latest numbers, Trzaskowski narrowly led Nawrocki with 31.4% of the vote, compared to Nawrocki's 29.5%. However, what's really making this election noteworthy is the significant support garnered by far-right and anti-establishment candidates, who together accounted for over 21% of the vote. This surge in support for the far-right has left many analysts pondering how these voters will cast their ballots in the second round. Sławomir Mencen, a key figure among the far-right candidates, has been particularly successful in attracting young voters with an economically liberal and Eurosceptic platform. However, it remains to be seen whether his supporters will throw their weight behind Nawrocki, or if they might opt for Trzaskowski instead. As we delve into the intricacies of this election, it's clear that both candidates are facing significant challenges in convincing the undecided voters and those who supported eliminated candidates to back them. Trzaskowski has emphasized the importance of arguments and reaching out to everyone, acknowledging the challenge of winning over young voters. On the other hand, Nawrocki is positioning himself as a guardian of social achievements and seeking support from across the political spectrum. The implications of this election extend beyond Poland's borders, given the country's role within the European Union and the potential impact on EU policies. The current coalition government, led by Prime Minister Donald Tusk, has been working to mend ties with the EU and reverse certain judicial reforms implemented by the previous administration, which were seen as undermining democracy. As we watch this story unfold, it's crucial to consider the diverse perspectives at play and the complex political landscape of Poland. The runoff election, scheduled for June 1st, will undoubtedly be a critical moment in shaping not only Poland's future, but also its relationship with the European Union. We'll continue to follow this developing story and provide updates as more information becomes available. For now, it's clear that the stage is set for an intense and potentially pivotal runoff election in Poland. Stay tuned for our final story of the day, right here on Barbaras Bulletin. Welcome back to Barbaras Bulletin. As we wrap up today's show, I want to bring your attention to a story that has been making headlines in the international community. It's a tale of resilience, struggle, and the human cost of conflict. We're talking about the situation in Gaza, where a prolonged blockade and ongoing violence have left many residents struggling to access basic necessities like food and healthcare. The author of an article published on Al Jazeera shares a personal account of life in Gaza, where the sounds of bombing and gunfire are a constant presence, and the smell of smoke and blood hangs in the air. The article paints a picture of a community that is desperate for aid, but also wary of outsiders, who may arrive under the guise of assistance, only to lay the foundations for colonization. The author notes that even if food is allowed into Gaza, it will not be enough to break the spirits of the people who are determined to liberate their homeland, no matter the cost. Now, I want to emphasize that this is a complex issue with many different perspectives and opinions. It's essential to approach this topic with empathy and understanding, recognizing the humanity and dignity of all individuals involved. As we consider the situation in Gaza, it's crucial to listen to diverse voices and seek out multiple sources of information. The proposed U.S. plan to feed Gaza, as mentioned in the article, has raised concerns among aid agencies and experts, who question its effectiveness and potential consequences. Some argue that it may not address the root causes of the crisis, while others worry about the potential for politicization or exploitation. As we close out today's show, I encourage you to stay informed about this critical issue and to think critically about the information you consume. Remember that there are always multiple sides to a story, and it's up to us to seek out diverse perspectives and engage in respectful dialogue. That's all for today's Barbaras Bulletin. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, stay engaged.